What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Awesemo channel, talking some college football DFS picks ahead of tonight's Thursday Week 3 showdown between Ohio and Louisiana Lafayette. It is going to be quite the barn burner here. But before we get started, make sure to hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We will be bringing you behind the glass to show you some of the data we have available at Awesemo. But of course, there is everything you need for college football: projections, ownership, slate write-ups, depth charts, notes. Everything you need is there. And of course, we will be using that to break down these teams in the depth today. Ohio representing the MAC, taking on Louisiana Lafayette. You have Louisiana as a 21-point favorite. The total overall is 57 points in a really intriguing game environment. I'm going to pull you over to the data tab so you can get a glimpse of how these teams operate, and we will talk you through the entire showdown slate right now. To begin, on the Ohio side, this team playing in the MAC got off to a really rocky start. They dropped their first two games against Syracuse and Duquesne, an FCS school. They actually only played 3 games last year, and they went 2-1 in those games, but they barely played any competition of note. They were a team undergoing a lot of changes. Tim Albin, head coach, he has 9 returning starters on offense, 8 on defense, but it's a team that has been forced to pass a little bit more here. Typically, they're very run heavy, only passed 35% of the time last year, 60 plays per game, super slow, super run heavy, but they've been forced to pass 49% of the time so far this year. That is mainly because of negative game script. Their quarterback is Curtis Rourke. He only has 5 starts in his career, but he's completed 69% of his passes, 7.4 yards per attempt. But again, really weak competition. He's not as mobile as his brother, if you remember some of the Ohio teams of the past, but Rourke does have 21 rushing yards in both starts so far this year. He's liable to take some sacks, and in 5 starts, he's only eclipsed 200 passing yards 1 time, which makes him a pretty low upside play considering Ohio is only implied for 18 points here, really low total here. I think he is certainly the quarterback you could look to in GPPs, but he's not quite as interesting as maybe even a Levi Lewis on the other side. The backfield, they're going to use 2 backs. You have O'Shane Allison and Demontre Tuggle basically in a 50-50 committee, which makes their pricing very interesting on a DraftKings, where Tuggle is significantly more expensive than Allison. Tuggle has 26 opportunities. Those are targets plus carries. And Allison only has 22. So we're talking about a 4-touch difference. Allison has 130 yards to Tuggle's 109. Neither back is particularly involved in the pass game, but because the timeshare is split evenly and the pricing is not, Allison becomes a very good value here overall, even though he's on a team projected to lose the game by 3 touchdowns. In the receiving room, Ohio's a team you're going to have to watch pre-lock, and it's going to be tough because injury news is hard to come by. Fortunately, if you just search some of these names in Twitter or on Google, you can probably find some reports about who's warming up. They lost their leading receiver to start the year, Jerome Buchner, against Duquesne. He has a shoulder injury, and he's questionable for this week. But he's not the only one. Isaiah Cox, their leading receiver last year, hasn't played in either of the 2 games to start the year. He led the team last year with 142 yards and 7 catches. Again, they only played 3 games, but those were 2 players expected to be a big part of this offense. I think if both are healthy, they will start and play, but Cox and Buchner should be the 1-2. If one or both of them is out, you're going to see Cameron Odom and Tyler Walton play more. This is going to be your 3 wide receiver set, ideally, as long as you're not dealing with injuries. But so far, Odom has 92 receiving yards. Walton has 68. Without Buchner and Cox, the team has used a lot of 12 personnel, so you're looking at 2 tight ends. Ryan Lerman is the primary pass catcher among the tight ends, ran around on 80% of dropbacks. Overall, it's a tough team to look at, but if I'm trying to order the targets here, it would be Buchner 1, Cox 2, Odom 3, Walton 4 in terms of priority, not considering price, just who gets targeted most. And I think that makes Cox a good play if he's active. Again, we're not sure, probably not expecting him. But behind him, I think Odom is probably the best price-adjusted play, just given the narrow target distribution. On Louisiana, of course, we want to target Louisiana. They have a 39-point implied team total. Massive favorites here, going to score a lot of points. Makes Levi Lewis probably the best price-adjusted play on the slate, even though he's very expensive. Looking at Louisiana from the past, they're a team that tends to be fairly pass heavy. They run a decent amount of plays. It's right around average to below average typically. Their pass rate is at 60% this year. We need to factor in their game against Texas, where they were severe underdogs. So that should normalize a little bit here. But overall, you're looking at the team that does play with more pace and a higher pass rate overall in this game, at least on average. So Levi Lewis, he needs to be considered. He's more of a game manager, complete 64% of his passes, 8 yards per attempt. He's somewhat mobile. He finished with 335 rushing yards in the past. So not going to be Lamar Jackson on the ground, but he's not going to give you a 0 either. And he only has 2 300-yard passing games in 2 full seasons as the starter with Louisiana. So another guy that's probably a little upside, but you're playing him because the implied team total is so high. Again, ignore the negative rushing yards you're seeing to start the year. He's typically a little more mobile than that. Louisiana has a history of using a committee at running back. Chris Smith is the incumbent here. He's currently averaging 14 touches per game, but he does rank second on the team overall with 7 targets. Smith has outtouched the change of pace backs at this point, who are going to be Montrell Johnson and Amani Bailey. So far, he's outtouched Johnson 28-18, Bailey 28-11. But interestingly, Bailey entered the game before Johnson in their last one. What it comes down to is all 3 of these backs are going to play. Chris Smith is the safe play, but I think you can use either Amani Bailey or Montrell Johnson in tournaments if you're looking to 2 backs in this offense. That has won GPPs in the past. There was actually a slate 2 years ago where Louisiana was on the slate, and 3 Louisiana backs were in the optimal lineup. So you can do some of these things in tournaments exclusively. At wide receiver, Louisiana utilizes a pretty nasty rotation, which hasn't gotten any better in 2021. Kyron Lacey's led the group, but then you have names like Dante Fleming, Michael Jefferson, Jalen Williams, and Peter LeBlanc all playing prominent roles. None have handled more than 56% of the routes in any of the first 2 games. Lacey leads the team with 12 targets, but he only has 67 yards. Fleming's actually run the most routes in week 2 at least, but he only has 3 targets. And it might actually be a pretty decent time to buy low on Peter LeBlanc, who led the team in receiving in 2019, but he suffered an injury last year and has sort of fallen down the depth chart. His routes did jump with a lower body injury. He's questionable. So to kind of sum this up, you're looking at injuries on both teams. Isaiah Cox, Jerome Buchner for Ohio, Errol Rogers for Louisiana. All of those are receivers, so make sure to monitor pregame. From there, you want to target Louisiana heavily as 3 touchdown favorites. Chris Smith and Levi Lewis, the 2 best plays overall for your captain spot. Looking to mix in receivers, I particularly like Peter LeBlanc, but Kyron Lacey's leading the team so far. On the Ohio side, you do want to touch on some of these players. O'Shane Allison significantly underpriced compared to the roles in the timeshare between Tuggle and Allison. In the receiving room, you're looking at Cameron Odom as the top price-adjusted play. Buchner dealing with an injury. Walton will play a lot if Buchner is injured. If not, and Buchner plays, Walton will just be the wide receiver 3. Ryan Lerman's the pure punt play if you need to save salary. But that will do it for us today at Awesemo. Thank you guys for watching. Much appreciated. Love hanging out with you guys. Hit the thumbs up button on the way out. Leave a comment. Let me know who your favorite play is. And we will be back for more DFS breakdowns throughout the week. Have a good one, guys.